Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into a piece of mythic storytelling that is, frankly, going to stick with you for a while. It's called The Parable of the Lightning Idol. But to really grasp the sheer, crushing weight of this narrative, we can't just look at it from the outside looking in. No, we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to step into the gray dust. We'll adopt the melancholic perspective of a doomed, wandering spirit, someone hopelessly trapped inside this very myth, recounting the final, fading days of existence. I want you to imagine yourself as this fragile consciousness, literally watching a universal unmaking unfold right in front of you. It's a terrifying, beautiful concept, so let's set the stage.
We find ourselves on what the text calls the lead horizon. Just picture a perfectly flat plain of endless gray dust. If you look way out into the distance, you can barely make out the petrified remains of the very first dragon, Verdant, this massive, completely silent ridge of oxidized lead. But that absolute stillness we're so used to, it's breaking. A totally new, terrifying frequency has started to pulse across the barren expanse. We're hiding, and we know exactly why. We know full well that this sharp, kinetic lightning is coming for us. And it's not coming to save us, it's coming to enforce a cosmic, everlasting quiet.
And this brilliantly illustrates the chilling contrast at the very heart of our unraveling. On one side, you have the ancient, silent ridge of our past, the first dragon, Verdant. It's the embodiment of slow decay and absolute stillness. But shattering that peace, we get the violent arrival of a new predator. At first, it's just this small dragon sent by a dark, absolute force known as the Cosmic Creed. It's pure, sharp, kinetic energy, a predatory spark that completely and violently shatters whatever illusion of safety we spirits were clinging to in the dust. You really have to understand that this inciting spark didn't arrive just to gently lull the world to sleep. Not at all. It is the architect of the first act of total unraveling. Its one and only purpose is to relentlessly hunt down the hollow echoes like us, who still stubbornly linger in the ruins of creation. As wandering spirits, the terrifying realization hits us. We aren't just slowly decaying anymore. We are actively being hunted. Hunted by an entity whose entire existence is literally dedicated to erasing ours.
Now, let's look at how the Cosmic Creed fundamentally defines our very survival, because it's pretty bleak. We aren't seen as survivors. We are living friction. Think about that phrase for a second. We are quite literally categorized as a structural error that is interrupting the perfection of the void. Because we somehow field the chaotic trials of becoming, our ongoing existence is just a cosmic mistake. A mistake that this lightning-fast hunter intends to forcefully, permanently erase. It's a profoundly melancholic realization, you know? Finding out that your very heartbeat, your pulse, is considered an error in the basic fabric of reality.
And that realization deepens into something even heavier as we move into the second act. As wandering spirits, we bear the absolutely crushing knowledge that our vitality is nothing but a borrowed debt. Every single breath we take, every tiny vibration of energy we manage to emit is condemned by the dragon as a temporary theft from the void. We don't own our existence, guys. We stole it. And the dragon, well, it's arrived with blinding speed to violently balance that ledger. So the hunter targets us to settle this debt, providing what the text chillingly calls the final honesty. It's a haunting way to look at it, isn't it? Death isn't framed as a tragedy by the Cosmic Creed. It's framed as the ultimate truth. By stripping away our exhausting, futile burden of striving, the dragon honestly believes it is delivering salvation, delivering honesty to a world that has just been lying to itself through the very act of living. Which brings us right into the third act. What we see here is this incredibly dark, tragic inversion of natural growth. Because the dragon doesn't grow by creating anything. It grows only by negating others. It's a three-step process. First, it negates us, the wandering spirits. Second, it internalizes our stolen potential. And third, it ascends. It actually consumes the essence of those it destroys, mutating from a tiny spark of lightning into a massive, terrifying force of chaotic energy. But right here is the dragon's ultimate tragic contradiction. To correct the so-called cosmic mistake of our vitality, the dragon has to absorb all of that stolen energy. And in doing so, it becomes the sovereign. It becomes this massive living force whose entire existence is, ironically, dedicated to the inanimate. It's a monarch completely bound by its own power. It's forced to become the single most vital thing in the universe, just to ensure that all vitality is destroyed. Having successfully ascended, the sovereign establishes itself as an idol over our perfectly flat plane. This kicks off the fourth act.
The dragon now rules the lead horizon, utterly cynical and completely detached. It just sits up there, enforcing the forbidden tenets of the cosmic creed from above. And, as a fading spirit, looking up and watching this massive idol of the New Age take its throne, well, it's the absolute final confirmation of our doom. The sky itself is now governed by an entity entirely hostile to our existence.
Watching over the dust, the idol basically mocks us. I mean, look at this quote outlining the philosophy of the New Age. Any attempt at expression is a wasted effort, a delay of the everlasting quiet. Our final, desperate sparks of hope, our art, our connections, they literally mean nothing to the sovereign. They are just annoying delays to the inevitable end. The idol is there to ensure that no warmth, no defiance can ever again be stolen from the void.
So we are forced to bear witness to a landscape completely stripped of all deception. The dragon's overwhelming, cynical presence ensures that no truth other than death could possibly exist anymore. It creates a landscape that never lied. Because in the eyes of the cosmic creed, life itself is the lie, and inorganic calm is the only enduring truth. As wandering spirits, our very final act is simply to observe this terrible, undeniable reality locking permanently into place.
This timeline lays out our inescapable progression, following what is essentially a universal Thanatos drive, an overwhelming death impulse. You can trace the tragic descent right here. We go from the kinetic pulse of the first epoch's inciting spark, straight through the terrifying harvest of living friction in the second epoch, and right down to the final epoch. It's just the universe's unstoppable, inevitable slide backward into an absolute, inorganic calm.
And finally, we arrive at the fifth act, the infinite zero. As my own living friction, my own borrowed depth, finally begins to fade away into the void, the sovereign dragon fulfills its destructive mandate on a universal scale. The unmaking is totally complete. There is absolutely no more living friction left to hunt. The dragon has succeeded, leaving absolutely nothing but an everlasting silence behind.
But here is the ultimate tragedy of our world, and honestly the incredibly tragic irony of the sovereign itself. The dragon's long rule ends exactly where the creed always pointed, with nothing left to consume, with absolutely no more living friction to fuel its chaotic energy. The massive dragon itself inevitably succumbs. Even its mighty lightning eventually settles into the honest, perfect, undisturbed quiet. The ultimate enforcer of the void is, in the very end, consumed by the exact same void it served.
Which leaves us, my fellow spirits, with a final, chilling thought from the creeping darkness. We've just watched a universe meticulously dismantle itself to achieve total honesty. But what do you take away from an existence that only finds perfection when it ceases to be? Is there a profound, tragic beauty in this total return to the infinite zero, or is it simply the ultimate tragedy of a world burdened by a mandate it could never survive? Think on that as the silence falls.